Welcome to Investories, a podcast about real stories, real estate, and taking real action. Join hosts John Hooper and Kyle Robertson as they talk investing, mindset, and taking that first step. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories Podcast.
Booyah! Welcome to the Investories Podcast. And with me is my co-host.
What's up, everybody? It's Kyle Robertson.
I thought you left me in the lurch last week, Kyle. Actually, you let me know you were away, but I took it personally.
Yeah, but you always do so good when you do these things by yourself. It's like, you don't even need me anymore. I'm just the pretty face.
Sure. Okay, we'll stick with that one.
Yeah.
So how was your trip?
It was solid, man. It was really good. We went to a theme park over in Idaho called Silverwood. And I'd never been there before, but, I got 3 kids, all, 10 years or younger. And so it was a good excuse to go enjoy my childhood again because they never wanted to ride anything by themselves at that age. So I got to ride a lot of roller coasters. So, yeah, it was a good time.
Scary or not too scary?
They had some terrifying ones there, to be honest with you. There was a couple of times, of course, the very first one that we even went on, the very first corner and little drop that we had on the roller coaster, my $200 sunglasses go flying right off the top of my head. I mean, I wasn't even on this thing for more than 30 seconds and I lost my sunglasses. I was super ticked about that. But it was a good roller coaster. I guess there was a little trade-off there. And a lot of the stuff they have there, Silverwood has been open since, I want to say it was the 80s. And they buy a lot of the roller coasters as like the Six Flags and the bigger ones as they upgrade theirs, then they'll take the other ones. And so, I mean, these are still big, nice roller coasters. It was a lot of fun.
There's a market for used roller coasters.
Yeah, I know. As soon as I heard that, I was like,
we need an episode.
It's not making the cut anymore, and yet I'm going to go ride on it. I mean, yeah, but they were still a blast. It was a lot of fun. They were great roller coasters.
Yeah, I'll expect you to set up as a roller coaster broker within the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that's a great site. I never thought about that. Those things have got to be multi-millions, maybe there's a commission split in there somewhere.
And you've got the van to move it.
No, not these things.
Awesome. So this week we've got Josh Wilson. He's an expert in BRRRR and a very humble guy and really a whip smart entrepreneur. I think you connected with him on Facebook as the kids do.
Yes. Yeah. I've been following him. I think we've been Facebook friends for a while now, but I finally reached out to him a few months back and asked if he'd be interested in being a guest on our podcast because he has quite the story to tell. He's built a pretty impressive portfolio through his holding company. And then he also operates an education arm, which is called BRRRR Bootcamp, where he teaches a lot of his students just the basics of BRRRR and how to get in, kind of on the ground level, vertical integration. He talks a lot about that and explains the process of how he got started, which is super, super helpful for anybody who's never done this before. So a lot of really good educational nuggets in this one as well. So check it out.
Yeah. Without further ado, here's Josh. Welcome to Investories, Josh Wilson. Hi, Josh.
Hey, what's happening, fellas?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm excited to be here. Life is good.
So Josh is the founder of JW Holdings and also the BRRRR Bootcamp. And we want to get into all of that. We want to get into property management and BRRRRs and what a BRRRR is and what it isn't, all that good stuff. Josh, perhaps you can lead in with a background. Where have you come from? What do you like to do? And where are you going?
Yeah, absolutely. So name is Josh Wilson. I've been in real estate investing now for over 15 years. I got started right before the real estate crash back in 2007. And needless to say, it was probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I was able to learn a tremendous amount of information on how the real estate markets and cycles work. And I saw a lot of my friends actually go bankrupt during that time. So learned a ton of lessons of essentially what not to do. And I took all that information, compiled it together, bought my first rental property, 2008 for about $5,000, during the recession. And I took that, flipped it 30 days later, turned it into $10,000, and then I was hooked on real estate. And so I started learning about the BRRRR method a few years later, and then BRRRRed myself all the way from a little small loan all the way to a $15 million rental portfolio that we hold today. And then we're growing pretty much usually every other month. We're buying about $1 million worth of assets. So this year we are well on track to acquire essentially almost $12 billion of real estate. And we have a goal. Our big picture, just like everybody has in their vision boards. And our goal is in the next 5 years, we're on our way to $50 million in assets, 100% owned by us. So we're really proud of that and really excited of what the future holds.
Kyle,
Board guy.
Oh,
can you hear me?
Good.
Okay, sorry about that technical glitch, but I'm a goal guy myself. I like to do the vision board thing. My wife and I, we do them. We do them annually. Sometimes we do them more often. But I love to see that you got some goals set, and those are some good lofty goals. And you gotta have the goals that are scary, right? So that's pretty awesome. $10 million a year on average for the next. We'll see. You're at 16 million. You got to go to 50 million in the next 5 years. Is that what the number was? That's pretty lofty. That's awesome. So what kind of stuff what are you targeting? When you think of BRRRR, and I'm going to ask you multiple questions here all at once, so hopefully you can remember them. But, when you think of BRRRR, typically we're thinking single family homes. That's what most people's minds instantly go to. So maybe you can talk about what the BRRRR strategy is and what exactly it is that you guys are looking for through your holding company.
Yeah, so BRRRR stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and my favorite one is repeat. You get to repeat the process all over again. So that's what BRRRR stands for. So what we normally do is we go out and we attract or acquire units anywhere between 1 to 20 units. That it could be single families, doubles, fourplexes, sixplexes, you name it. But we really, honestly, I really deep down like the single family homes. A lot of people, think I'm crazy, but I just like it because it's easy to manage. You can get in and get out of that deal very quickly versus let's say, for instance, you buy a big apartment deal. It takes a lot of time to liquidate. It's not something that you can just go and sell tomorrow. With a single family home, you can do a variety of different things. You can owner finance that deal pretty quickly and get cash. You can sell the asset quickly for cash. There's just a lot of moving parts where you can get in and get out of those deals. And then on top of that, number two, when it comes to cash flow, turnover is really light, on single families. You have a tenant sometimes anywhere from 5 to 10 years. And so the biggest cost for us as investors is turnover. So I really like that space. And it's worked well for us because we've been able to scale during that in that space itself. So yeah, I think that answers your question, but
in the investing space likes to talk about, which is multifamily versus single family. And I agree with you. I agree with you on especially the turnover costs, because my game is multifamily and it kills me. I mean, it's incredible. 12 months is average. I swear it's average. And people will argue with me about that, but there's not a whole lot of people that do, especially depending on if you're, a class B or maybe a C or even a C minus or a D. You're not going to get, 12 months out of people. A lot of times they'll abandon their leases, very transient type of tenant base. And the single family space, I mean, obviously you see that on a regular basis. People, grandmother moves in because she's retired on a fixed income and stay there for 10 or 15 years. And I very rarely get that on any of my apartment buildings. So I really do like that. And what, just so you can tell the listeners, what areas are you mostly focusing on around the country?
Yeah, so we are typically only in Louisiana right now. So we're starting to spread our footprint further and further from our home base of New Orleans. Right now, we're at about a 60 to 75 mile radius of the city of New Orleans. We're slowly starting to expand that a little further. So as we start to get a little more of a foothold in this area. But yeah, in order for the BRRRR method to properly work the correct way, you need to have people in place to be able to execute on that. So like, I just can't go tomorrow to Dallas, Texas, and go and try to start burning properties in Dallas, because what needs to happen is I have to go there and set up at home base. Like, I got to get a property management set up. I got to get a maintenance team set up, all that good stuff, and then go in and start acquiring, you know? And so that's how we're so successful here, is because we're able to do that. We're able to set up those teams. We have a property management company. We have a rehab company. We have a maintenance team. You know, we have all that in place, so that allows us to scale and vertically integrate. If I didn't have that here, it would probably be a little bit more difficult to actually scale the portfolio and grow as fast as we're growing.
So we like to represent the very early stages and the midterm stages of investing and people's investing journeys. How did you start, and how would you advise people to get going? Like, what did the capital look like? What did the kind of process look like to get the right team members in, and those kind of pieces?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, everybody's got a story, and I feel like everybody's got their rags to riches story, right? You know, but a lot of people see the result of Josh Wilson today, and they don't see me 15 years ago when I was broke, eating from the dollar store every single night, trying to raise 2 kids. I was 21 years old, trying to run a company, start a company for that matter, out of my rental home that I was living in at the time. It was a little 1-bedroom, like little cove that I started my rental company. I remember I was obsessed. Every single night I would lay in bed with my wife, and I would pull out an Excel spreadsheet of all of the, you know, the potential rents and the income that we would generate from these properties. And so, you know, you gotta be obsessed almost with it. You gotta want it so bad. And so for me, it started with a little small $5,000 rental house in Jackson, Mississippi. I pulled up to it. My wife was like, "There's no way in hell we're buying this thing." She's like, "I'm not doing it. This is a piece of shit. And we're not doing it." So, but I convinced her. We ended up buying it, and I flipped it for $10,000 30 days later. And that started growing my capital. But needless to say, right, you know, you take that 10 grand, you go drop it into another rental. Now you're done, right? You have to wait now another year or two to save up for a down payment. So one thing we started doing was we actually took on a side hustle. We were doing non-emergency medical transportation for about 2.5 years. And my wife and I were both delivering patients back and forth from hospitals to nursing homes, and literally taking everything we made from that side hustle and putting it in a separate bank account, and then using that for down payments to acquire more properties. So we did that for about 2 years or so, and just almost killed ourselves doing it. And my wife looked at me one day and she's like, "There's got to be a better way." She was like, "This is going to take us forever to buy enough properties to, like, you know, get the freedom number that we want, you know?" And so I finally went to my banker one day and I was like, "John," I was like, "how are people doing this?" I was like, we're growing, we're buying 2 properties a year, 3 properties a year. I was like, "It's just not enough, man." I'm like, "We're dying." He's like, "Josh," he was like, "I wanted you to earn your stripes. I wanted you to, you know, be a little green." But he's like, "Have you ever heard of OPM?" And I'm like, "OPM? Like, is that like a drug? Like opium? Like, what are you talking about?" He's like, "No, man." He's like, "OPM, other people's money." And I'm like, "No, I've never heard of that. What is that?" And so he introduced me into OPM, and then that got me into the process of BRRRR. And from there, at that point, I learned how to BRRRR properties, and it was like I just added jet fuel to a rocket. And the day I did that was in 2010. I think it was May of 2010 is when I started doing the BRRRR. And literally from that point on, my portfolio just skyrocketed. And here we are today. So advice for people that are looking to get started. Let's say, for instance, you've never done a deal before. Number one, you got to save up some money. You got to be able to get some cash together. Or if not, you got to learn ways on how to generate income without using your own money, whether that's wholesaling and part JVing, doing those things with people that are already doing what you want to do. If not, secondly, I would then also, after you save up your cash, then get around like-minded people, get around people that are looking to go in the direction that you want to go. And that was one thing that was huge for me, is that I didn't learn that until a long time ago, when essentially you start getting around people that are, you know, you're going to masterminds, you're going to networking RIA events, you're going to, whether it's paid, events, things like that. until I started doing that is until I started making relationships that have allowed me to get better financing terms, to get better insurance policies, to get more deal flow, to partner up with people that are doing bigger things than I'm doing. And so those are the things right now that you can be doing to increase kind of your awareness, right? And start learning. And so I would just tell people right now is just, you got to want it bad enough. And if you want it bad enough, you're going to figure out a way, just like we did. I mean, we started driving for NEMT companies because we wanted it bad enough. And, here we are today.
That, because I tell people this all the time. It's like you see somebody who's successful like yourself, Josh Wilson, and just slaying it in the real estate game. But the fact is you weren't born this way. There's a lot of things. You talk about earning your stripes. A lot of things had to happen, and a lot of things, pieces had to fall into place in order for that income to start getting generated, and especially the education piece and learning on the fly. And, my wife and I, we experienced the same thing. I worked in a job for a long time that I didn't like. And prior to that, there was a lot of other jobs I did that I didn't really like. And, and all of it was trying to drive me towards doing something that made me happy. And I just didn't know what it was at the time. And so finally I found real estate, just like yourself. And we realized the potential of the real estate. But man, you just sit there and you just slave away and grind away. And the fact of the matter is you didn't quit. You became successful. And I think that's the biggest issue, is that a lot of people, they think, okay, well, why isn't this happening? It's not happening fast enough. If you quit, what do you get? You get the same thing every single time, which is absolutely nothing, and it's so frustrating when people with so much potential just get fed up and tired and they just quit and they go back to a job, and then they're going to continue the rest of their life being unhappy because they didn't go through with what their business plan was. And generating capital, huge. Wholesaling is a great way to do that. And did you say that you did some wholesaling, Josh?
I have done some wholesaling. Yep.
Great way to just generate really quick short-term capital that you need for down payments on your long-term holds or just for your BRRRRs. What about private money, hard money? Have you ever utilized any of those types of strategies?
Oh yeah, man. Private money is one thing I love to talk about. We've actually, and something I'm pretty proud of is like I've raised myself alone on Facebook, not Facebook posts, but Facebook stories. I have raised over $2 million from people that I've never met before my entire life, just from utilizing Facebook stories. And social media is powerful. It's free. And it's so underutilized today by people that are looking to get into real estate space or raise private money.
What your experience with that private money and hard money is? Because a lot of people, I think probably the number one question I see in social media is, where are you getting the money for these deals? Where are you getting the money for these deals? What is private money? What is hard money to you? What's the difference between them? Which one do you prefer? What do you think?
Yeah, so there is a difference between private money and hard money. A lot of people think that private money and hard money are the same thing. I got that question actually today, and they're actually two different things. So private money is like going to your aunt, your uncle, or your mom, or your dad and saying, hey guys, I have an investment opportunity. Would you be interested in investing in it? And that's like saying, hey, I'm going to give you a set return over a set period of time, and you're going to be able to generate X. The hard money route is essentially going to like an institutional, lender. Like we have a few that we work with, and they're national lenders. And you go to them, and they actually lend off of the it's like a DSCR lender, debt service coverage ratio lender. And they will lend basically off of the property and off of your credit score. So if you have good credit, you've been paying your bills for a reasonable amount of time, and you have a good property and a good deal, they'll lend on it, and they'll lend on it usually very quickly. Usually within 3 weeks or so, you can lock up an acquisition and rehab loan, and then same thing goes for the back end on the refinance. If you're doing a BRRRR, they will refinance it out for you as well. So you're going to pay a little bit higher of interest rate than if you did that conventionally. What I mean by conventional loan is like, that's like if you're going to your local mortgage broker and you're saying, hey, I need to get a loan from you. They're going to run you through the gauntlet of underwriting. You're going to get, you're going to get one of those checkbox underwriters, and they're just going to check the boxes and put you through the ringer. And then you'll get your 5.5% or 5% rate nowadays. But if you want to go do less underwriting, then you're better off going to a private money lender, or better off going to a hard money lender, where they're really going to be looking hard at the asset, looking at your credit score and just your experience overall.
Hey, so Josh, I think that's really interesting. Perhaps you can break down what that loan process or what that product looks like for people. So if someone's getting working on a BRRRR and working through that process, what does the financing route look like?
Yeah, I mean, man, I've done hundreds of these transactions now. So, I mean, I could do it honestly with my eyes closed. So it's actually now, to me, it's very simple, but to other people, it may be a daunting task. But once you do it a few times, you understand what they're looking for and what they need. So generally speaking, first part of the BRRRR process, you have to acquire the property. The lenders are not going to want to deal with you or touch you if you haven't got the property under contract, because you're going to be wasting their time if you don't do the deal. So you get a property under contract, you bring that deal to the lender, and you give the lender all the information. They're going to want to know what the purchase price is. They're going to want to know what the repair estimate is and that breakdown. And then they're also going to want to know what the ARV is, which is the after repair value. And then they're going to want to know what the rent amount of that property is. That's if you're doing a buy and hold. They're also going to want to know, if you're doing a buy and flip, they're not going to really care about what the rental amount is. They're just going to really care about what the ARV is. So once you've done that, then they'll say, okay, here's your term sheet. These are all our terms. We're going to lay them all out of what we're willing to lend you and give you a rate lock for that period of time. And then once you agree, you sign the term sheet, send it back. And then from there, they will then order an appraisal. In that same time, while they're ordering that appraisal and that appraisal is getting done, they're then going to request, maybe, hey, can you send me your last 2 months of bank statements? They just want to see some liquidity, in your account, that you're not like, you're not driving up in on like $5 in a, beat up car. And, you're trying to, this is your last wing of a prayer, they want to make sure you have something in the account that you can support yourself and support the property for the next couple of months. So they'll ask for some liquidity, and then they're going to run your credit report. And then after that, then they're going to ask you to link up with your insurance broker to make sure you got your proper insurance, like your hazard policy, your general liability policy, and potentially a flood policy as well if it's in a flood zone. So once they have all that information, then by that time the appraisal's coming back. Appraisal comes back good, everything looks okay. Then you're off to the races to set a closing date. And usually during this time frame, it's about a 2 to 3 week time frame from start to finish, from the time you submit the deal, from the time that you actually sign on the dotted line at the closing table. And they'll generally require you, depending on your experience as a real estate investor. There are some lenders out there, if you have like 30 or 50 or more properties, they'll lend you 100% of the deal. If you are an inexperienced investor and you have, let's say, for instance, you've never done a deal, they may require you to put up some more money as a down payment. So you may be looking at putting 30% down of the entire loan, that's acquisition and rehab, in order to get that deal across the finish line. But if you've done a few deals and your leverage may be a little bit less, but as you start doing more deals, have more experience, they're going to have more confidence in you as an investor. And that's what we do now. We do 100% loans, and it's great. It allows us to really quickly scale our portfolio. We do a mix of private money and hard money as well. So we're constantly keeping that pipeline going and constantly keeping that machine moving along.
Stuff. Now, you kind of talked about there at the beginning, I guess we'll back up just a hair to your story. 2010 was kind of the turning point of for you, for when you were finally able to start getting some momentum behind you in your investing business. When we think about what was happening back in 2010, we were just kind of getting to the bottom of the market right there from the 2008 crash. I had lived through it myself. It sucked. And I wished I was smart enough to really ramp things up about that time like you did, but I didn't. I still waited a few more years before I jumped in, head first. So tell us a story. Tell us kind of about what your experience was starting in 2010 and how it was that you started really snowballing this thing for the next few years.
Man, look, I'll tell you this. I remember this one specific story. I had a partner with me at the time. He was the money partner, and I actually had two partners. One was a contractor, one was a money partner at the time. And needless to say, I bought them out later on down the road. But at the time when we were partners, we were looking at deals, and we were buying duplexes for like $30,000 and $40,000 in New Orleans. And at the time, that was like, that was pretty cheap, So now looking back, those duplexes are worth like $250,000, $200,000 on today's dollar. And, we were looking at deals, and there was this one particular deal I'll never forget on Constant Street in New Orleans. And we were looking at it, and the price went up like $20,000 in like 2 days. And it was like, we got the deal, and it was like, they were like, oh yeah, we're going to list it at, I don't know, we're going to list it at 40. We're like, okay, we're interested. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, like, we got so much interest, we bumped it up to 60. And my partners and I were like, no way, we're not buying it. Like, we're not risking our money. This is nuts. I can't believe it just went up $20,000 in 2 days. That property today is worth like almost $800,000. And I kick myself every day that I drive past that property. And so I guess lesson learned from that now is like, you know what? It's true what they say. Don't wait to buy real estate, just buy real estate and wait. It is really true. And so that is one lesson, that, next time we have a crash, and this is the other thing too, is that when we had this crash, I was a newer investor. So I started right before it happened. So I really didn't know what was good and what was bad. I kind of went in with blinders on. Like, I didn't know like really what was happening. I mean, I knew that we were having a recession. I knew that was going on, but like as an investor, I really didn't feel it. I just saw people around me that were really getting clobbered. But they were doing flips. I was doing rentals. And so my rentals were cash flowing. I mean, like as fast as I could get one up in rehab, I had somebody like knocking on the door, like, I'll pay $800 a month, please let me move in. And we were buying deals at that time for, $40,000. We were getting $750 aside, $1,500, $1,600 a month in rent, and putting 20 grand into a deal. Like, I mean, just the 2% rule back then was like a normal day. Now it's like, man, you're lucky if you get 1%, you're like, hell yeah, so, but we buy a little bit, higher than that now. But yeah, back then, man, 2010 was, it was a fun ride, and I learned a ton of information during that time. And I'm so happy that I went through it, because I think it has shaped me into a better investor today. So.
That's really interesting. I think looking back and, hindsight and all that good stuff, but that's really interesting to go through and kind of live and breathe that and take out those lessons. One thing, so BRRRRs have really kind of bobbed to the surface over the last few years in terms of popularity, and a strategy that's really, people are really taking notice of. Where's the biggest kind of pitfalls, or where do most BRRRRs kind of fall down or kind of miss the mark? What's the...
Well, Dave Ramsey doesn't like BRRRR. According to him, he just does not like the BRRRR process. I read an article, I don't know, it was a couple of months ago, and I did a video about it. And he just does not like the BRRRR process. But I think it's because he got caught he was doing like 90-day short-term rental loans, So, he got caught in a mess when interest rates just shot up. He couldn't get out. So that's the reason why he doesn't like BRRRR. But we don't put ourselves in that position. We're in 12, 24-month loans. We have a lot of runway in front of us, and we're quick, we're fast. So back to, I guess, the downfall of the BRRRR, right, is number one, if you are buying in a high interest rate environment like we're in, like I say, we're in high interest rate. I mean, this is ridiculous. I remember 2015, I was paying 8-9%. Like, this is nothing, So we're spoiled. That's all it is. When you're in a climbing interest rate environment, we'll put it that way, you could get caught in the BRRRR process. So meaning that if you're not looking backwards at comps, and you're looking at current comps at a small 6-month window instead of going back, then you could get caught. And so meaning that you're going to be in an environment where the values are going down. I don't think we're going to be in a point where values are going to just hit hard and just crash. I think they are coming down. I already see it, which is good for investors. But in the BRRRR process, you just got to be careful and just look at your ARVs and your comps. I would go back as far as before COVID, as like realistic comps for the upcoming 180 days or 90 days in the future, because I think that's where we're headed. I think we're going back to right before COVID, before the market was like absolutely insane, and then we'll get back to a more manageable growth of the market.
Relationships and surrounding yourself with the right people. So for a new investor, a lot of experienced investors won't give them the time of day. It's mostly a lot of people who have been in the business for a really long time. A lot of people ask them a lot of questions and kind of be demanding of an experienced real estate investor's time. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's just trying to break into the real estate game? How do you start building these contacts? How do you actually surround yourself? Where do you go? Who do you talk to? How do you meet them? And what's a good way to approach somebody that maybe you would like to establish maybe an informal mentorship with them and maybe learn from them? You have any tips for people?
Yeah, so the banking world was really great for me, the small banking world. So, and I'll be honest with you, I got lucky with my banker. He was somewhat, he was just banking savvy. I don't think he was real estate savvy, but he knew the banking world very, very well. And I kind of leaned on him for that, just to kind of, show me how the financial world works. And so my suggestion to someone is bring value. I get DMs every single day. Hey, Josh, can you help me do this? Hey, can I pick your brain? Hey, can I take you out to lunch? Hey, can I take you out to dinner? Hey, you want to grab a cup of coffee? I mean, every day. And I'll be honest with you, it's overwhelming. I can't help that many people. And I have a family, I have a life as well. And so I need to, be able to make sure I'm giving them their time that they deserve and want. And so I always give this one piece of advice. It's just that go out and provide some value to the marketplace. So if you want to learn how to manage properties, go and piggyback a property manager and bring them something. Say, I will cut your grass for free. I will help you lease properties. I will clean units. I will do whatever it takes to learn the business, provide some value that they need help with. So if somebody came to me and said, hey, instead of, hey, can I pick your brain? Or, hey, can I take you out to coffee? And they flipped it and said, hey, I have a hot deal for you. If I give you this deal, will you show me what you do? Will you show me how you underwrote this deal? Will you show me how you're going to refinance it? Or you're going to show me how you're going to execute on the exit? I would absolutely do that because you're bringing me value, and in turn, I'll give you value. But it's a one-way street when somebody says, "Hey, I just want to pick your brain." So yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I would just bring value to the market. It's a very simple answer, and a lot of people just kind of overthink it.
To people, one of the things that I think about when I'm trying to meet new people is, social media, reaching out. But like you said, people, sliding into the DMs on a regular basis, trying to send messages, asking questions and these sorts of things. What other ways can you meet people? What other ways can you meet investors? Any suggestions for that?
Yeah, I mean, social media is huge. I mean, I'll be honest with you today, man, like the power of social media. I think I have more friends on Facebook, like that I meet on a regular basis on Facebook than I do with like actual people that I met prior to Facebook. It's just really weird how that works. And I think it's because Facebook and social media allows you start it's like a magnet. You start gearing towards people that you have interests with, and you start talking about the same things. You get involved in the same groups, and you're all going in the same direction. And so I think social media is powerful. Look, RIAs are great. I will tell you this. Here's my thing about RIAs. I love RIAs. Absolutely love them. I think it's great for newer investors that want to jump into the real estate investing game and just kind of get a high level overview of where we're going and what things are happening in the market. But I will tell you this, they're free, and they're free for a reason. It's because you're hanging around with a bunch of people that are all still trying to figure out what the hell they want to do. And so I think that a RIA is good for the newbie investor, but after you've kind of graduated and you got your deal under your belt, you got to graduate up and you got to get outside of the RIA, because the RIA is only going to help you so far. You're going to be networking with people that are all still trying to do their first deal, and you can't grow doing that. So the only way to do that is get outside your comfort zone. I'm in like 3 different masterminds. And so I'm in one mastermind for our coaching business. I'm in another one for real estate, marketing. I'm in another one for private for financing, raising private money. And so those masterminds provide so much value to me because I'm able to take that information that I get and deploy it right back as soon as I get home, versus like, and it's high level stuff, people that are doing big things way bigger than I can even think of, and so when you go to the RIA stuff, you can't get that same stuff. And no hate on the RIAs. I got pretty friends of mine that have invited me to RIAs, and I speak at RIAs. I love RIAs. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that eventually you got to graduate and you got to move up and get outside of that. But for new investors, absolutely 100% go pull up your local real estate investor group and go just soak up as much information, shake as many hands as you can. And contacts equals contracts. It's a very true statement. The more people you know, the more business you'll do. And that's why I do these podcasts, because at the same time, I get to meet more people. And the same thing for you guys, right? Talking about adding value, right? My audience gets introduced to your audience and vice versa. And so it's an equal exchange of value. And and if people don't know you, like Grant Cardone says, if they don't know you, they won't flow you. And it is like so true. It is one thing that I didn't realize. I used to see when he would say that crap on TV. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? And then once I finally realized that, getting out there, getting your name known, shaking hands with people, kissing babies, doing all that, people are going to want to start doing business with you if they can know, like, and trust you. And so same thing when it comes to finding deals for real estate. If you're not out there, if you're not, introducing yourself to people, if you're not meeting lenders, if you're not going to small local community banks, introducing yourself, then you're never going to do a deal. So
I'd add to that as well. I really like that. That answer's great. I think be human. So rather than just reach out to someone, have a conversation. So if there's a Facebook thread that someone's spoken about something, go and have a conversation around that, and you'll start to forge those relationships. That's what helped me as a fairly new investor, and really helped me cement kind of conversations, relationships with people without it being transactional or without it being, what can you do for me? So that's really good advice, Josh. I really appreciate that. In terms of, and I'm going to my list of questions. It's nearly a feature, Kyle. In terms of kind of the best piece of advice, what's the best piece of advice you've had?
I would say, I think I preach this all the time to my students. It's make offers and make them often. And what I mean by that is just keep putting the offers out there. It doesn't matter if you feel like it's silly, if it's stupid, if it doesn't make sense to the seller. As long as the offer makes sense to you, give the offer. You're never going to know when you hit somebody at the right time. And I just had this exact experience with one of our students the other day. Same exact thing. He put an offer out there. It was on an MLS deal. He put an offer out and he was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, Josh. I'm wasting my time. Like, you're not wasting your time. Like, put the offer out there. So he sent the offer in, and of course they rejected it. And he's like, see, I told you. I said, just wait. I was like, let's go find another deal. We're going to do it again. We're going to go put another offer in. And we're underwriting these deals for BRRRR. So we're putting them in our pro forma, in our spreadsheet, and then it's spitting out at the bottom a number that we can offer on that property. So we do that. We send another offer out. Well, yesterday, lo and behold, I get a text message. Do you know what the text message said? It said, hey, we would like to revisit your offer that we rejected. And so could you resubmit it again? Sure, absolutely we can. So they resubmitted the offer, and now he's under contract. So make offers, make them often. You never know when you're going to hit somebody at the right time.
Love it. Good stuff. Josh, you're a part of I guess you talked about your students just a second ago, but you operate an educational company called BRRRR Bootcamp. And if you would talk just a little bit about that, what it is that you guys do, and kind of give us an intro to your company.
Yeah, absolutely. So BRRRR Bootcamp, we are an education company. We teach the BRRRR process and a little bit of vertical integration. So we show students on how they can go out, acquire deals with little to no money down, or save up some money to do little or no money down deals, and then acquire those properties and hold on to them. So we really specialize and target real estate agents, wholesalers, contractors, and appraisers. Those are like our real big group of people. And then W-2 people, folks that are all W-2 employees that are looking to get out of that 9-to-5 grind. Those are our deal students. And Yeah, so we teach them how to buy real estate and conservatively build a rental portfolio so that one day they can exit the rat race and live off of their income, and then also open up, other companies from that initial property. So what I mean by that is like vertical integration. So what we do is we take a property. Every time we buy a property, we have multiple companies from that property that is spitting off income to multiple different companies. So we buy a property, we put it into our wheelhouse. Property management company makes money, landscaping company makes money, the rehab company makes money, the maintenance company makes money, et cetera. Insurance company, you name it. And we teach you how to do that. And then in addition to that, I have a huge property management background. So that's really my bread and butter with automations and systems. We have processes where you never have to actually show a property ever again. So my wife and I, great story. We were like on the back of our boat in the Virgin Islands, and she was actually signing leases, and people were seeing properties remotely without any of us having to show the property. So, and we set up those systems integrations. That's allowed us to scale. So we could literally go out of town and never miss a beat. We don't have to worry about rent not coming in. All of our rent's on automation. It comes in direct deposit. So we have a lot of things that I've set up because I wanted to be able to travel, to be able to have that freedom, right? That's why we're doing this, for freedom. And so we set up a lot of automations to allow us to do that.
Amazing. And so your background is building those companies. How did that, talk me through your mindset in terms of how you shape that thinking around all that vertical integration? What was the catalyst, and how did you see those opportunities?
Yeah, look, when I was a kid, man, I was on a cruise ship with my grandparents, and I've always had that entrepreneur like blood. I was on a cruise ship with my grandparents. I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise before, but they give you these little cards when you go on a cruise, and that's how you get around. That's how you can pay for things. The cash was not like a transaction then. So we would use these little cruise cards, and I was a kid, and I would go, and all my little friends and buddies on the cruise ship had cash. Their parents didn't trust them enough to give them a cruise card. So what I did was I would take the cruise card and I would go buy candy and do all the little souvenirs and all that on my card. And then my friends would give me cash and I would buy them their candy and their souvenirs with the card. But in addition to that, they would pay me like $1 or $2 more over the price amount that it was going to charge me. So at the end of the cruise, my grandfather came to me and was like freaking out. He's like, "Josh, what are you doing? There's like an $800 bill." And I'd reach in my pocket and I'd pull out this wad of cash. And I'm like, "Here you go." I called him Papa. I was like, "Here you go, Papa." And I gave it to him. And he's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Well, they all paid me to buy the stuff on the card. I just charged it on the card." And he like counted it all up. And I ended up making like a couple $100 after that. So, so that, it just goes to show you, like, I mean, I was 7 years old then, and I had that young entrepreneur like blood in me. After that, I ended up working. I ended up starting a wedding disc jockey company. So I started doing wedding DJing for brides and whatnot. And then we kind of grew that into like a wedding production company. We added photography and videography onto that as well. So again, another company there. And then I sold that. And then I'm sitting down one day and my wife's just like, "What do you want to do? Like, what are we going to do?" And I'm like, all I know is I'm a terrible employee, so I do not want to go work for anybody else. And so I ended up working for a property manager for about a year, and I just soaked up everything I could. And I learned so much information about how to sign leases, how to cut grass, how to do make-readies on units, painted units, learned about AC service calls, how to fill Freon, you name it, how to snake lines, how to evict people, how to show properties, how to fill out applications. I've done it all. So, and it's just that learning and that understanding of how to actually operate the systems has allowed me then to take that to go and open up the different companies. And so I basically just took that information and then started, once I saw my P&L that we were paying this company X number of dollars, I would say, okay, it's time now for us to go and open up our own division. So we would go open up our own division, and that was it. And then we're off to the races.
John brought it up, but at the same time, I just got off a call with my property manager before I jumped on this podcast, and we always do our monthly rundown of what happened with one of our places, and she manages one of my portfolios over in Arkansas, and we were just kind of having a little conversation about, she was talking about how she pays just an outrageous amount of taxes every year on her earned income from the real estate property management company. I was telling her, you need to maybe open some more businesses. And she says, well, I'm a little bit risk adverse. I don't really know that I want to do that. And I was like, look, Sandra, I'm paying $1,600 a month just to the landscaper. And that's it, just to a landscaper. If you had me, because she was talking about her husband, he doesn't have another job. He works as a fireman full time. And she was like, he's always been looking for a side hustle that he could do. I was like, well, he could always open up something like that. I'd pay you $1,600 a month to do the same job that somebody else is doing. You get the income, you get the tax benefits of being another business owner, huge tax benefits of being a business owner. And opening up these little ancillary businesses around your main hustle, which is real estate, is just so incredibly impactful to your bottom line. And a lot of people, it does take logistics. I know that, these things we talk about, we'll open up this business and this business. Well, there's more to it than that. There is a lot of things that go into opening up a business, but keeping that on the back burner in your mind for any of the investors or aspiring investors that are looking to get started, look at the opportunities. They're everywhere. They're all over the place. So many ways to make money. And maybe even the business doesn't make money, but it is your tax benefit. It's what offsets that income. So maybe your tax bill isn't as bad as what it would be before you started that. So love that. I love that, Josh. Thank you very much. We appreciate all of that. Tell us, how is it that people are able to get in touch with you and learn more about the BRRRR Bootcamp?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So just go to BRRRRbootcamp.com, BRRRRbootcamp.com. Got a plethora of information. You can sign up for our webinar on there. We have our BRRRR Bootcamp webinar on there, and you can learn about kind of our high level, the BRRRR process. And it's about a 15-minute webinar or so, but full of awesome little nuggets about private lending and on how to wholesale and do your first deal. So definitely some good information.
Amazing. I'm impressed that you got the right number of R's. I was counting along with your background. So very, very impressive.
I say it enough, man.
You said it a few times, right? Oh, and we'll put links to all of that in the show notes as well. So people can just go and click through. Josh, thank you so much for your time today. I got a lot out of it. And we say this a lot, but we definitely need you to come back and go through a few case studies, a few bits and pieces on kind of maybe some learnings and things like that. Really interesting. So thank you so much for your time.
John, I have to say, who dat?
Yeah, who dat? Josh is a Saints fan and I'm a Saints fan. I don't think Kyle knew that either.
Yep.
What are the Saints?
Good luck, Saints.
Is that soccer?
No, it's football.
It's the other form of football.
I just wanted you to say football because you're British, and they'll never say that.
I said it either way. There you go. So, but I am also a Saints UK fan. So there's a soccer team who are called the Saints. So awesome. Josh, we'll welcome you as an honorary supporter. There are better teams, so I don't know.
Awesome.
Make your own conclusions. But Josh, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
We'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening to the Investories podcast. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories podcast.